Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be taking a quick throwback look at the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen Hunt for the Decepticons Scout Class Ravage. With rumours of an impending core class release for the studio series just around the corner, I thought that it would be quite cool to take a look at the original Legends or core class Ravage that came out as part of the original 2010 Hunt for the Decepticons line. And I've got to be honest and say that over a decade after its release it still holds up incredibly well, to the point where, to be honest, I actually wouldn't be mad at Hasbro for simply just reissuing this guy. Now you can see I have got him somewhat attached to our studio series Revenge of the Fallen satellite soundwave. Of course this is just a fan mode, but not looking too bad at all. I do believe in the movie Ravage did in fact actually eject out of this circular section, and of course I've used this piece here in order to actually prop him up. But starting off, firstly we'll take a look at Ravage here in the entry mode. Now we only really see this for a very brief second in the movie, of course, when he does eject onto Earth, and you can see for the most part it definitely resembles what we saw from the film. It is this almost shuttle ship-esque type of thing. You can see in terms of detail it is pretty nicely done, especially in regards to this nose cone. Very alien in terms of design, but I don't think looking too bad at all. And you will notice subtle bursts of golden highlights scattered throughout this guy, which really does help to break up some of the gunmetal grey that we've got going on. But here, in all honesty, not too much to in fact actually talk about. I have in fact actually seen quite a few reviews of this guy online, and none of them appear to have in fact actually transformed him the way the instructions showcase. So is there indeed a third mode for this figure? I'm not entirely sure, but this is just what the packaging did state. So you can see the arms are folded up on the underside, and the same can also be said here for these hind legs. And as we just flip here to the belly of Ravage, you can see how the tail does become this almost laser cannon here at the front. Now I'm not entirely sure whether or not there was a way to in fact actually combine this figure with the original Revenge of the Fallen satellite soundwave. I do know there was some sort of combining gimmick going on with a few of the Hunt for the Decepticons figures. Most noticeably would be the Voyager class Mindwipe as well as Scout class Skystalker, of two figures of which I did in fact actually review I believe 2 years ago over on the channel, and they in my opinion are some of the best live action movies ever to come out from that line. But basically that is Ravage in his entry mode. So without further ado, let's very quickly get this guy transformed. So to begin with, you are just going to want to take these legs here, bring them out to the front. We can then take the tail, hinge this here, take the actual two Gatling guns, hinge them out, and then basically just arch this here all the way to the back. We can then take these legs and hinge them just like so. I'd love to know down in the comment section below on whether or not you guys do in fact actually own this particular Legends Ravage, and are you all that fussed to see whether or not we will indeed actually get a studio series version. I am aware that there are indeed quite a lot of you guys out there who do in fact actually find this to be a more than suitable enough candidate for a core Ravage already, so I'd really love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. But with that very simplistic transformation, here we have the Hunt for the Decepticons Legends Ravage fully transformed up into the robot mode, and I'm going to be honest and say this actually looks really well done. For the price point as well as for the scale, Hasbro really did knock it out of the park, and in some regards I do in fact actually find this figure to be even better than its deluxe class counterpart, especially in terms of scale. Of course the deluxe figure was just way out of scale when in comparison to say the deluxe Bumblebee or even of course the deluxe Soundwave, so this one was definitely a lot more suited for some of those other figures. But you can see in terms of detail looks exactly how he appeared in the movie, even down to the proportions here of the legs. I think they did a fantastic job. You can see we've got that Cyclops side there at the front, very Shockwave-esque in terms of design, but I think that looks awesome. I believe he was supposed to be a Jaguar in the Revenge of the Fallen movie. I definitely know that was the look they went for in the Bumblebee film, and I do think it is also what they based this guy on in Revenge of the Fallen. But you can see some fantastic, very menacing silver metallic teeth there, looking really cool. We've got the ears there, as well as the spine, which of course gets ripped out by Bumblebee, and we've got those massive two cannons attached onto the back that we see him using in order to infiltrate that facility which is holding a shard of the Allspark. But you can see the attention to detail there for the biceps looks great. Lovely mechanical detailing going on there for the legs. The same can also be applied here for this back section, and surprisingly the tail doesn't look too bad at all. In terms of articulation, sadly nothing at the head at all, so no jaw articulation nor rotation at the head. That is something that I am hoping to see improved on our upcoming studio series version. But here for the shoulders, due to transformation, these can hinge forwards and backwards. Of course, are on ball joints, so it can rotate the full 360, hinge out to the sides, and we also do get a hinge joint here at the front claw. As we turn our attention to the hind legs, the same basically applies, so ball joints here forwards and backwards, rock side to side, hinge joint out to the side, a hinge joint at the knee due to transformation, which is pretty cool in getting him into some decent dynamic poses. Of course, due to the entire torso being blocked out, you're not going to be able to get him into some super cool poses, but it is just nice that you can orientate these differently. And we also do get a hinge joint here for this foot, and then finally the tail can hinge up and down, and this section also can rotate left to right, and the two cannons can also hinge up and down. So overall, definitely a pretty nice looking Ravage figure in terms of some size comparisons. Here we have him alongside the newly released Studio Series Core Class Ravage, and you can see that surprisingly, despite there being over a decade between these guys, the scale actually isn't too bad at all in my opinion. I do believe that just overall, the B-movie characters are significantly smaller than the Bay-movie characters, so it would stand to reason that this Cybertronian Ravage is a little smaller when in contrast here to the Bay-movie version, but you can see in terms of a core class or scout class comparison, I actually think these look great. And once again, as mentioned at the beginning of this review, I honestly would have no issue in Hasbro literally just reissuing this figure, maybe in a darker color scheme with a few more paint apps. I honestly would be super satisfied, as I do know that on the aftermarket, this particular version does in fact actually go for significantly more than his larger deluxe class counterpart. And for some more robot mode comparisons, here we have him alongside the Studio Series Soundwave as well as Revenge of the Fallen Bumblebee, and as mentioned previously, no issue here at all in terms of scale. For those of you who can't in fact wait to see as to what that Studio Series version is going to turn out to be, then this one is definitely going to work really nicely. I think in terms of a scale here between Bumblebee, definitely scales really cool. Of course, you could have this bee in fact actually gripping the tail, holding the head and pulling the spine out of Ravage, much like we saw in that Revenge of the Fallen movie. And just to give you a side-by-side comparison, honestly, I actually think this is pretty damn close to what we saw in the film. And so, some final thoughts for this Transformers 2010 Revenge of the Fallen Hunt for the Decepticons Scout Class Ravage. For a figure of which is well over a decade old now, much like many of the releases from that period, I still think it holds up impeccably well, to the point where I'm actually not that fussed if we ever see a Studio Series Core Class version, as I think he scales really nicely with some of our more modern figures, and that really is just a prime example of the quality of those 2010 releases. Honestly, they were so well done, and in some aspects, I do in fact actually find this figure to be even better than his deluxe class counterpart, of which I will also be taking a look at over on the channel fairly shortly, so be sure to stay tuned for that. I think in regard to the entry mode, it's pretty cool. Once again, we don't really get a great look of it in the film, so I can't really be all that critical, but it really is that robot mode of which I think Hasbro have nailed the look of. It looks so awesome. Of course, the posability is slightly limited due to the scale and price point, but really, I think he looks great alongside some of the other Decepticons, as well as even Autobots. You can see I've got him paired alongside Bumblebee, just about to be destroyed. And if you are after a detailed in-scale version of Bayverse Ravage, then I definitely think this is the figure to in fact actually track down. Of course, you may wish to hold out to see as to whether or not Hasbro do produce one, as this guy does sadly go for quite a high price point on the aftermarket, but if you do own him, I definitely would not recommend to get rid of him at all, as I really do think it's going to take a lot to in fact actually dethrone this figure. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. For those of you who own this figure, do you agree with my thoughts? And for those of you who perhaps don't, will you be going hunting in order to track this guy down? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Of course, if there is a throwback figure that you guys would like me to take a look at, also be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. And until my next review, I'll